Welcome to Let's Talk Books Unscripted. Welcome to episode 16. This is a series we're doing, husband and wife who love to read. This is unedited, unscripted, so what you see, what you hear, that's what you get. What are we drinking tonight? Do you remember the name?
I'll probably mess up the name, but we will put the link to the recipe for this drink in the description. I'm saying that now out loud so at least one of us will remember when I post this video. But yeah, I found it on Pinterest. It's an orange gin basil smash. Maybe I got it right.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, we like just plain old gin and tonics. I think we were maybe drinking one during one of our videos. So yeah, it just came up on my like Pinterest feed when I was looking for like I think it was like a food recipe. So I was looking for a crockpot recipe for the other night when I made that, and that one just like popped up and I said, oh, that looks kind of yummy, and especially for summertime. So yeah, it's very refreshing. It's just kind of fun to find new recipes.
It's quite good.
And we do like gin.
Yeah.
So if you also like it, I would definitely suggest it for summer. You can make it, you could do non-alcoholic too, because it has club soda. I guess I don't know how flavorful club soda is, but you could probably just do the club soda, simple syrup.
It'd be good as a mocktail, for sure.
You could make it a mocktail, and it has citrus, so it's got lemons and orange,
and basil. Yeah.
That kind of.
These are glasses
fresh.
I got from my grandma's house. We've been using them. They're pretty cool glasses.
Yeah, kind of fun.
But we got a doozy of an episode today. We each have a book we finished to talk about. And then we're going to talk about two books that Katie's got two she's currently reading. I have one I'm currently reading. I'm gonna reveal what my next rom-com will be.
And I'm sitting here shaking my head because he ignored my suggestion.
She wanted me to read a different one, but we'll get there. And then we're going to move on. We got two subscriber questions to answer, which is great. So keep the questions coming if you have one, because we'd love to answer those questions.
Okay,
should we start with the books we finished?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right, so I finished The Guncle. I believe Corey posted my 60-second book review of this one.
That reminds me, I gotta post my review.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you.
I think he posted this one on here. So if you have not watched it yet, you could go watch that. It's a very brief review. It is like 60 seconds.
We started a 60-second book review we're going to start doing on Instagram and on YouTube.
Here and on TikTok. So I'm on
and
TikTok too. So,
and we're on Twitter, so let us know.
Yeah, I guess we didn't plan to talk about this right now, but I guess I will quickly. Because I don't think we've touched on it before. I know we talked about moving away from like star reviews. But speaking of reviews, I'm actually moving away entirely from written reviews, at least for now. I'll test it out and maybe I'll want to get back to it at some point. But I feel like, time is valuable. And if I sit down and take a long time to like have a well thought out review, because it's not a quick thing. So I do that and I post those on Instagram, and then I just don't get much attention on them. So I just feel like maybe that's not what people want to see, or they just don't take time to literally read a caption on a post, which is fine. So I just feel like you kind of want to go with what seems to be popular or what people want. So yeah, I still want to keep reviewing books. That's important to me because I think that's like what we're all wanting, or want to, have some new recommendations or something. So we are, moving to a video format for reviews. So doing that across all platforms. I mean, obviously YouTube and TikTok are really video based anyway, but with Instagram too. So yeah, we haven't done very many, but this is, my most recent finished book. So check out that video, but I'll just make like a quick comment about it right here too. I really loved it. I thought it was a bit on the slow side at first. I had a little bit of a hard time getting into it. I kept telling Corey, I'm like, it's not a bad book. I like it. I'm like, I like the content. I like what it's about, all of that. But it just felt like the pace was a little slow. But once I hit about probably the halfway mark, I started to get into it more, and I really did fall in love with the characters in this book. Patrick is our gay Uncle Patrick, so they call him Gup and then Guncle. which is pretty endearing. I like that title. And he takes temporary custody of his niece and nephew. They're featured on the front here too. They get themselves a little dog named Marlene. I love that they name her Marlene. But yeah, I really liked the writing style in here. I'm definitely excited to read the sequels. I think I touched on that on a previous episode.
Yep.
So there's The Guncle Abroad. So that's kind of fun. I did not read this book when it first came out. So now I get to read the sequel that just came out recently and get to do it pretty soon after. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's next for Patrick and Maisie and Grant. Maisie and Grant are, the niece and nephew. But very heartwarming story. Lighthearted in parts, but I do want to say a disclaimer because I feel like somebody said when I posted my video review on TikTok, I think it was, she commented and said that like she felt like it was kind of misleading, like the very bright, happy cover, and didn't realize how much the book was about grief. So I will say that if you're in kind of a grief season yourself, maybe you want something happier, you don't want to read this, and maybe you would wait to pick this up, or maybe it's something you do want to read, and it could help you work through grief that you're experiencing in your own life. But yeah, I would say that it's very grief stricken, but it's written really, really well. So I think he touches on that topic in a really tasteful, helpful way. And yeah, very, very sweet and also funny. I feel like, yeah, it was definitely funny in parts, but just more sad than I think you would maybe assume when you just like look at the cover. So yeah, but very good. I'll tell Corey to read it eventually too, and then yeah, again, I'm excited to read the sequel. So all right, your turn.
So the book I finished yesterday is Hedging Your Bets by Jane Dinker. This was a book that I was looking forward to for a long time just because I love gardening, and this has that gardening theme to it. It's about two neighbors who, it's an enemies to lovers rom-com, so they end up being enemies for quite a while in the book, but they end up competing against each other in their small town's gardening competition, and obviously that creates some drama. I think overall I liked it, but I didn't love it. Just because for most of the book, they were just enemies, and I had a hard time with that. There was a point, I think, like 70% away in, I was like, Katie, like, she's dating someone else. And I was like,
they're still not together.
No, they're
What's
still
happening?
not together. And it took forever. But once they did get together, it got so good. The ending was really...
So maybe it's worth the wait for people who really like enemies to lovers.
Yeah, if you like enemies to lovers, this is a perfect book for
know.
you. This was my first time at enemies to lovers, and I'm not going to give up on the trope. So if anyone has a recommendation for me for a really good enemies to lovers book, one of the rom-coms I have upstairs, I've got my mind set on Brew, it's called. That one is enemies to lovers too, so
It's got a beer element, a craft beer element, so you got that.
I will read it, but I'm going
beer.
to not do two in a row, and I want to get a good recommendation from someone for enemies to lovers rom-com that I think could be better. But I did like the ending was really good. The last 30% of the book I really, really enjoyed. So I did like it. I think it was a good book, written well. Obviously the cover and
the cover's really pretty.
So there's a lot going for it, but I was a little slightly disappointed in it. But I'm gonna make Katie read it but I've already told her. Like when I read books, I tell her a lot of stuff about them.
Sometimes he almost mildly ruins it for me.
So
He just can't help
I gotta
it.
work on that because she doesn't do that to me.
Don't do that. Why would I spoil it for you?
But
I've spoiled books for him in the past, but that was before he was getting into reading himself. And so sometimes I'm like, maybe he wasn't listening to me when I was talking to him about a book, so then I didn't actually spoil it.
But then I do remember.
You didn't remember the ending of You Shouldn't Have Come Here, I don't think. And that was one that I talked about to you. And then, yeah.
I need to work. If you love enemies to lovers, this is a great book for you. But sometimes you just need to talk to someone about it.
Yep.
So there it is. I love the cover.
Sometimes you end up loving the cover more than what's on the inside of the book.
Yes.
It does happen. So this could be a good example of that. However, I am starting to get into it more now. So another one that started out slow for me, The House Across the Lake.
Hmm.
I'm very late to the game in starting to read Riley Sager books because he seems to be very popular. Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm up on like the what's popular and like all the books that everybody's talking about, and other times I'm like, okay, yep, I'm just now, checking out this author for the first time. But I feel like that's the beauty of reading in books. You just read on your own time. You don't have to read what everybody else is reading at the exact same time. There are other people who probably are in the same position as me, so it's all good. But yeah, this one I have heard from more than one Riley Sager fan that this was like their least favorite book of his. I'm like, oh, interesting. It's the one I started with, but that's okay. Yeah. It started out a little too slow for me for it being a thriller, but now I'm like, let's see, how many pages in am I? I'm like I'm like about almost exactly 100 pages in, and I am starting to get into it, to where I definitely want to know what's going to happen next and where it's going. Yeah, like another warning for this one, I guess. The main character is a severe alcoholic. So just stating that if that's something you're dealing with in your life, maybe you don't want to read this, or you just don't want to hear about how much this woman like consumes alcohol. But it's very similar to like, so far I'm getting vibes from like The Woman in the Window, if you've ever read that book. So that would be like a good comparison. If you liked that book, maybe you would like this one too. Sure. But that's just a big element of this book, so I will say that right away. But yeah, very creepy. You can tell right from the cover, and you can see this house across the lake where it's like mostly glass. So yeah, this woman has too much time on her hands, and she's able to stare into this house with binoculars. And it's kind of like, yeah, she's trying to figure out like what's going on over there. It's a husband and wife who live there. So yeah, it's very eerie. Yeah, I got all the eerie vibes, finding out like, yeah, what's she going to discover? So yeah, I'll be excited to tell you what I thought of it once I'm totally done with it.
Very nice.
What do you got next?
Yeah, so a book I'm making some strides on, you can see my bookmark there, is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is one that I have shown before on here, but I haven't talked too much about it. But there isn't much to say yet. I mean, I was telling Katie earlier, because I like to spoil books to her, that not a lot has happened yet in terms of like creepy stuff.
Even though it's got such a creepy cover.
But there's just so much good character development, and just every character you meet in it is kind of eerie. And I'm starting to just get my suspicions and get my like thoughts of what's going to happen next, and I think it's going to be crazy, because obviously the eye is a huge element of this book. I won't tell anything more about that, but things are going to get real. But what I'm saying is, nothing's really happened yet, but it's so well written that it's so interesting just to hear the backstory and get to know the characters, because they're all just kind of a little weird. And
Unhinged.
Unhinged.
Is that a good word for it?
That is one of the words they use.
That's what Aardvark, where that book came from. We got that from Aardvark. They use that term quite a bit, that they are unhinged because of all their crazy hints that they give for every month before they release new books, which, by the way, they have new books coming tomorrow. We're already hitting July tomorrow, which is great.
This is great.
So you'll be watching this on July 1st.
We're filming this, this is Sunday night for us. But I'm excited. I think next episode I'll be able to share a lot more with this book. I'm not going to spoil anything with anyone, but I'm excited to share my thoughts, because I was just telling Kate earlier, like, this book is getting so good. So stay tuned for more information.
Okay, and then the last book that I'm going to talk about is another one that I'm struggling with. You guys, I feel like I'm sort of in a little bit of a reading rut. I'm not going to lie. Because it's interesting that I rarely ever reread books, but reread Funny Story. I think I told you that. And like, it's the best book I've read in a long time. So it's just like, I cruised through that one. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did read I think I told you I read a different one though on my Michigan trip, and I read it in like one sitting because it was like on the bus trip, and I did enjoy it. I don't think I would go as far as to say that I was like obsessed with it, but I did enjoy it. But yeah, I just feel like I need to find something that like grabs my attention immediately.
Yeah.
I posted in my stories on Instagram yesterday asking for like people's favorite thriller that they've read recently. And a couple people did say a different Riley Sager book, so by the same author. So I'm like, I feel like maybe I just picked the wrong one to start with. I don't know.
If you like that one, then you'll know.
I am starting to like it.
You'll love the other ones.
So yeah, somebody did tell me that she was like, it's my least favorite. So she's like, don't give up on him if you decide you don't like it. And she said, because I think you'll like his other books.
Yeah.
So, and that does happen. And so that brings me into this one. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've talked about her before. I've read a couple of her books. I think I've read 3 of her books, physical books, and then I listened to like a very short novella is what you would maybe call it, that was available only on Audible. That one was just okay for me, and that's kind of how I'm feeling about this one. So this is Malibu Rising. It's got a really pretty summer cover though. So it's a book about surfing, but I wouldn't really say it's primarily about surfing. It's just a family who happens to love surfing. So a surfing family. It's got a lot of family drama. It's actually kind of depressing. That's what I was telling Corey, is that like, again, it's like a very bright, happy, we've got like hot pink, writing on the cover, and it's not very happy. But no, I love her so much that like she's such an excellent writer. Like you have yet to read anything by her, because Corey got into Daisy Jones and the Six with me, the TV adaptation.
Yes.
But he has not read the book, and that is one of my favorite books ever. Like actually ever. So she's just an incredible writer. She's great with words. Like she's great telling a story for sure. So that's what's keeping me reading it, honestly. But I'm like, are there gonna be any happy elements to this book? So I'll have to let you know. But yeah, just a lot of like, family drama and sadness and absent parents. So I will say that in case this book has been on your radar. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer about any of the books that I shared, but I just think it's helpful to know those things sometimes before you pick up a book, because maybe you'll decide not to, or maybe you're like, oh yeah, I could get into that right now. So definitely don't want to discourage anyone from picking up any of the books that I've talked about, but I do think it's helpful to know those things sometimes, because that's how I feel. Sometimes I feel like I maybe would have liked to know more about a particular book before I read it. Sometimes people like to go in blind, and that's cool too. So
that's good.
So and I was gonna say, I'll keep you posted, because I've got like a decent chunk left. I physically could probably read it tonight. I just always have to decide how late I want to stay up.
I don't think you're gonna do it.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to, and then I'm gonna get really frustrated because it's gonna count for like July reading when I'm more than halfway through.
That's just one more for July.
It just is what it is. So you'll have to let me know in the comments if that's something that bothers you too, or if you're just like, whatever, you're weird, Katie. Okay, moving on.
All right. So I've said many times in the past, I like to always be reading one thriller and one rom-com. And I just finished Hedging Your Bets, so I'm gonna show off which rom-com I'm gonna be starting next. And that is Rent to Be by Sonia Hartle. So
I told him to read Funny Story.
Kitty wants me to read Funny Story, but I just have a thing for these cheesy rom-coms, and I can't get past it. And this is a fake dating, obviously, between, a landlord. We all know where it's going to go, and it's got a cute, clever title. And this is one I picked up when we were traveling, so it's got a special meaning to me. But this is what I'm going to be starting. I haven't started yet because I literally just finished the other one. But I'm going to be starting this one soon, so you'll hear more about it. But like you can't deny the title, Rent to Be. I like the top. It says, "This book will live in my head rent free." That's so good. So here it is, the big reveal.
He's gonna read Funny Story next.
Okay.
I'm gonna just put it on his nightstand.
If this one is not super great, then
You'll move on. You'll move on.
100% I will.
Okay, and then what were the couple questions?
Yeah, so we have a couple questions from subscribers. Hopefully they're quick questions, because
I know we were told not to worry about the time though. A couple people
so thank
said
you.
that.
We appreciate
So
that you saying
thank
that.
you for whoever watches these whole things and doesn't care about the time.
So the first question comes from Cindy Love of Book. She says, "Not sure if this has been asked. What is a book you loved but the other didn't?"
So I don't have this book
That's
down
a
here.
good question, yeah.
And no, Corey has not read it, but it does happen to be by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So yeah, we can't can't say that has happened yet, but there's a book that he refuses to read because he knows the premise of it and watched the part of the movie adaptation with me, which I think we brought up in like one of our, it was when we had like that giant stack of books done.
Oh, yes, last episode.
Because it was a book that I recommend. So I loved it. It's called One True Loves. I think she wrote it before Daisy Jones. I think it was one of like her earlier books. But yeah, quick premise is that it's like a second chance romance. This woman, I'm not spoiling anything because it literally talks about it on the back of the book, or it's like it happens very quickly in the beginning of the book, so you'll find that out if you read it. But she loses her husband. They're a pretty young couple. Yeah, they get married, and I'm trying to think how soon into their marriage, her husband goes on a trip, and they presume him dead. They think that he dies, because it's been however, I can't remember exactly how many years, so I'm not gonna say, but because I haven't read the book in a little while, and I think the amount of years was maybe different in the movie adaptation too. They change things all the time. It drives me crazy.
I think it was like 2 years.
Something like that. But in my opinion, this is where we disagree, long enough that she was like, okay, and with encouragement from her sister, I think it is like, you need to move on. Like, you know, he's gone. Like, it's okay, you can move on. And so with like the encouragement of her family, like she starts to move on, and they say like, you know, your late husband wouldn't want you to be sad, like wouldn't want you to live like this. And so she ends up reconnecting with like a guy, I think, who had a crush on her like ages ago, you know, like I think when they were in maybe even high school
together,
yeah. So like they all knew each other and stuff, and so they reconnect. And again, I'm not giving anything away because this is just what happened in the book, but they reconnect, and she starts to fall for him, and like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say anymore because I'm trying to think of like how
you don't want to ruin it, yeah,
in the on the back of the book, but yeah, Corey just, he doesn't like it. So I feel like it's not one that we've both read.
Well, we can't talk about it without spoiling
right,
it, so.
Right. So read it for yourself, and then I would love for you to tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah, we've talked about this quite a bit. It's just kind of a,
yeah.
It's different from like me putting myself in the husband's shoes and that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But normally when it comes to books that we've both read, we do have different tastes, so we don't always read the same books, as you can see from like my rom-coms and stuff. But the ones that we recommend to each other are ones that we know the other person will like, and we both have ended up liking them. I mean, a lot of books we've both read, we both really liked.
We've been together long enough that I think we know what the other person is gonna like or not like. I mean, there's plenty of books that I read that I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother telling him to read them because it just wouldn't be his thing. So I'm just like, all right, I'll tell him I liked it, but you know. I think there will be a book at some point that we can talk about maybe. Yeah. But as of now, we make sure we know which books each other will like. So if I'm gonna recommend one to her, I'm like, you gotta read it. I know she's probably gonna like it. Like, I'm not gonna be like, you have to be hedging your bets, because I'm like, if you want to. I may or may not read it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she's not gonna,
I'm not gonna
tell me to read Malibu Rising.
Because he probably won't like it, yeah.
But the few we have both read, we've both really liked. Because we know each other pretty well in our book tastes, and we do have different tastes a little bit.
Similar, but also different.
But then, I think the thrillers are kind of like what bind us together.
Thrillers and rom-coms.
Yeah.
Although we disagree on the types of rom-coms, it seems like.
Exactly. See that?
So there you go.
See that? So we'll keep that question in the back of our mind. When one of those books arrives, we'll talk about it.
And what was the other question?
Speaking of rom-coms, there was a lot of people have been really reaching out, just really think it's cool. I like to read rom-coms, and I don't think
Speaking of
I don't think it's that weird, but apparently it is unusual for a man to like to read rom-coms.
Mhm.
And this is from Kat's. Wait, where is it? Sorry. This is from Kat's Books 2631. She said, "I love seeing a guy reading romance. What got Corey into romance?" Yeah. Good
You
question.
have to answer that
Good
for
question.
yourself.
What do you think for me? No.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the other day. I don't know. Like ever since we started dating, like yes, there were some things that like I, made him watch with me. Like where he was still trying to win me over. So he watched like all the Twilight movies with me, for example, and now he's like, I never want to see those again, and that's fair. I like those movies, but yeah, like that was a situation where it was like, I liked them and he watched them for me. But then there have been plenty of, and that's not even a rom-com, that's like whatever that category is. It's romance, but yeah, there have been plenty of rom-coms over the years where like, it's not me being like, please watch this with me. It's like he equally wants to watch it with me. And so that has translated into books then too, rom-com books.
Yeah,
He just likes them.
I love romantic comedies, like in terms of movies. So when I got back into reading, it was just like, an easy transition into reading books, romantic books. And I'm so drawn to the covers and to the titles
cover titles.
like we go to the bookstore and I just like, I see one, I'm like, I have to have it. And I know it's not going to be super good. Like, it's just a thing, you realize they're not going to be amazing. But that's not the point.
It's the same with like the cheesy rom-coms that you watch.
That's not the point. Yeah, it's just like
Hallmark
it's
movies
just
or on Netflix.
a comforting, cheesy thing that you like. It's a guilty pleasure. We'll call it a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
So it's just something I've always enjoyed. The movies, and now I'm getting into the books, and I'm planning to read as many as I can. If it has a clever title and the cover art is appealing to me, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to read it, and I may like it, but that's not the that's not the goal.
Yeah.
So thank you for that question. Really good question. Let us know your questions for us for next episode. This is episode 16. Yeah. We are at 921 subscribers. I wanted to hit 1,000 by end of June, but whatever. We didn't get there.
It's okay.
But that's fine. We're still getting subscribers.
Still working towards
and
it.
We've noticed a lot of people are liking our videos and watching them all the way through.
Yeah, we appreciate any amount of views. So yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't watched previous episodes, go back and watch those. That really helps us. And don't forget to like the video. And if you leave a comment, that helps us a lot.
And share with your friends and family so that they can subscribe.
Yeah.
And hopefully you